Oh, it was there for you that day.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the final Science, Technology, and Energy Committee meeting of the 2021-2022 legislative session. We have quite a bit to do today. It's going to be an unusual day, and I'll explain that in just a moment. But before we do that, I'd like everybody to rise and join Representative John Mann as he leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now I would like you all to remain standing for a moment so that we can acknowledge members of the committee who will be retiring after this session and thank them for their service. So first of all, I'd like to recognize the doyen of ST&E, Representative Jackie Kelly Pitts.
"26 years of bipartisanship and BS.
Jackie's
Which order?
Jackie's sense of humor has gotten us through some tough times on this committee, and we'll miss her greatly. And we thank you, Jackie, for your service to our state. Next, I'd like to recognize Representative John Mann. John's many years of service on this committee have been greatly appreciated. He's taught us all a lot about energy efficiency, made us understand just how important it is. And while we may not always agree on the best way to pay for it, we at least know how important energy efficiency is. So thank you, John, for your years of service to our state. We appreciate you.
And thank you for the free light bulbs.
Yeah.
Okay, next, I'd like to recognize Representative Lee Oxenham. Thank you, Lee, for your service to the committee. I know that you believe passionately in the cause of renewable energy, and we have learned a tremendous amount from you. Your debate information was always informative and helped us understand issues more thoroughly. And we appreciate all the work that you've put in. We appreciate how you've served your constituents over the course of your term in the legislature. So thank you very much, Lee. And finally, we'd like to recognize Representative Peter Somcich. Thank you, Peter, for your work as the ranking member, for ably leading your caucus, for providing lots of great information during debates, and for doing a great job supporting your constituents in Portsmouth. We'll miss you. I understand maybe there's more political work in your future. We wish you the best wherever that takes you. Okay. Thanks to everybody. All right, let's begin. So we're going to be passing judgment on 8 retained bills this morning. To refresh your memory, there are 2 things we can do with a retained bill at this stage of the session. One is recommend a bill for future legislation. The other is to not recommend the bill for future legislation. So those are the decisions that we'll be making today. Now, we have 3 out of the 8 bills that were heard by a subcommittee. So for those 3 bills, we're going to go straight to an executive session. The other 5 bills were not heard by a subcommittee, so we're going to have a brief work session on each of those bills before we move into executive session to make the final determination on what to do with those bills. Now, I mentioned earlier that today's session was going to be a little bit unusual. And here's the reason why. At 10:50 this morning, we're going to take a break from committee work. We're not going to recess the session. We're just going to take an extended break. And the reason for the break is that there's going to be a news conference downstairs in the LOB lobby at 11 o'clock. And some of us on the committee will be participating in that news conference. So we will take a break from about 10:50 until about 11:30 to participate in that news conference. Then we will reassemble in this room at 11:30 to finish whatever work that we haven't accomplished up to that point. If it should be the case that we finish all 8 bills before then we will simply adjourn the meeting and say goodbye to each other for the session. For those of you who came in late, we did take a group picture right before the session started. I hope you were here in time to get in the picture. If you weren't, we may attempt it again afterwards, but that might be difficult with people having to go downstairs, et cetera, et cetera. But we'll see how that works out. So with that, Representative Callie Pitts, did you have a question? The news conference will be about the cause of high energy prices.
You know that?
Do I know that?
I said, we know that?
We do, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we do. All right, so you can all enjoy the news conference later if you so choose, but let's get to the work of the committee. I'd like to open a work session on House Bill 213 and ask the committee if anyone has any concerns, any issues, any comments they'd like to make about House Bill 213. To refresh your memory, that was relative to the elimination of useful thermal energy from renewable energy classes. Does anybody want to make a comment about this bill? Representative Sopcich.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, my comment would be, I would think that this is a bill that we should not recommend for approval because, as the chairman himself has said, next year will be the year of biomass, and I think this is directly related to biomass.
Okay, thank you. Representative Harrington.
Yeah, I would recommend further legislation on this because we've just all been talking about the increase in electric prices, and this is simply a buried tax in electric rates. The electric rate payers shouldn't be paying for useful thermal energy. If we think that's a good idea, we ought to tax something else where people can see it. We all talk about transparency. If you ask the 1,000 electric rate payers in New Hampshire, I think maybe other than the ones who are directly benefiting from this through this subsidy, probably 1 or 2 of them would know that they're paying for useful thermal energy as part of their electric rates. We need to do whatever we can to lower electric rates, and we always should push for transparency in government and not hide taxes for someplace where no one can find them.
Okay, any further comment? Representative McGee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I look at this bill and say that it may have some use at some point, but I don't think this particular bill, as it is right now, is ready to go because we do have significant disagreement about whether it is of value to the ratepayers and is of value to how we're operating as far as the energy portfolio that we're running right now in New Hampshire. We don't have any information to indicate that this is a good decision, and I don't want to see us making any more poor decisions around thermal energy and its value to our energy portfolio. So I would be in favor of letting this bill go. If something comes back in the next session, that's a different story, but this particular bill doesn't seem to have appropriate vetting so that we know that it would be useful.
Thank you, Representative Callie Pitts.
I'm going to preach for the last time. This bill is dead. And I've been saying that for 2 committee meetings. It's not a bill anymore. What has to happen if you want to move it forward and the committee recommends that, and that's all we're doing, recommend or not recommend, and then it's up to the people who are here next year to file new legislation or not file new legislation. So I want everybody to understand that this bill, for all practical purposes, is dead.
Thank you. I'll remind members to turn your microphone off after you finish speaking. Representative Oxenham.
Thank you, Chair Vos, for taking my comment. This bill is very much in the tradition of the last 6 to 10 years of energy bills coming out of this committee, bills reviewed by this committee. It's all about trying to gut the policies that we instituted to assist renewable energy and to assist energy efficiency, which are the 2 proven ways to reduce costs, reduce rates, and reduce people's bills. I had hoped that after the recent embrace of biomass by the Republican majority, that we had seen an end to this kind of bill, and I certainly thought this bill would have been swept under the carpet at the beginning of this meeting. I'm delighted that it was called out, and then we can point to this as absolutely a picture-perfect example of Republican policy on energy, and it's the reason we have the highest rates, the highest bills, barring only Hawaii. We need to be investing money. We have thrown away $1.5 million of RGGI money, which was not invested, which did not decrease people's costs, which did not weatherize homes. And the RPS, we have had to close down our programs because there's no money, because rec sweeping means we don't have alternative compliance payments. I would like to see this bill recommended for further action, just to bring to everyone's notice what kind of policies have been put forward during this session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further comment? Seeing none, I'm going to close the work session on House Bill 213 and open an executive session on House Bill 213, and I recognize Representative Harrington.
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman. I would move that we recommend this bill for further legislation.
Recognize Representative Thomas.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we recommend this bill for future legislation. Is there any discussion? Seeing none,
Don't be concerned.
I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the question of recommend for future legislation on House Bill 213.
No, I agree. That's why it's a protest vote.
The clerk is doing his due diligence on paperwork, so it'll take just a second for him to call the roll.
Representative Thomas.
Yes.
Representative Harrington.
Yes.
Representative Notter.
Yes.
Representative Murner.
Yes.
Representative Plitt votes yes. Representative Berejny.
Yes.
Representative Bernardi.
Yes.
Okay. Representative Cambrils.
Yes.
Representative White. Representative Ploche.
Loche, yes.
Representative White, is he here? Okay. Representative Lewicki.
Yes.
Representative Somsich.
No.
Representative Callie Pitts. Representative Mann.
Yes.
Representative Oxenham.
Yes.
Representative Vincent is not here. Representative McWilliams. Representative Creechin, not here. Representative Pimentel, not here. Representative Partial.
Oh.
Okay. And the chair?
Yes.
You
Sorry.
skipped me?
Did I skip who?
Me.
Oh, sorry. Representative McGee.
No.
Is there any member present who did not have a chance to vote? Mr. Clerk, what was the vote tally, please?
It would be, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 14 yes, 4 no, and 2, 3 not present.
Okay, thank you. By a vote of 14 to
We're
4.
missing one there. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. 4 not present? Who's the not? Okay.
All right, by a vote of 14 to 4 then, the committee votes to recommend this bill for future legislation. I'll close the executive session on House Bill 213. Now I'd like to open a work session on House Bill 1248. This is a bill relative to replacement power for net metering customer generators. And ask the committee if anybody has any comment on this legislation. I'll just refresh everyone's memory that this bill sought to require renewable energy generators who are intermittent to acquire replacement power for the periods of time when they're not producing power of their own. But the bill provided no mechanism to do that and had many other flaws. And that's why it was moved to interim study. There has been no new developments by the prime sponsor on how to fix the bill's flaws. Does anybody else have any comments to make? Representative Somsich.
Well, I would just point out that in most cases, when you have a renewable energy project, the entities, the businesses that engage in this will require some type of compensation or replacement anyway. So I don't think that a bill is needed for that. It is already happening now.
Okay, any further comment? Representative McGee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, and just to add on to that, for folks who are smaller generations and who are not entered into those kind of PP arrangements, they basically are adding supply locally so that additional energy doesn't have to be brought into the supply from out of state. So they were always designed to be an adder and not the same as, the firm energy that we require to be at a higher rate. So it's a plus, and I think this bill took us in the wrong direction trying to say that it needed to be something that it's not intended to be. So that's all.
Okay, any further comment? Thank you, Representative McGee. Seeing none, I'd like to close the work session and open an executive session on House Bill 1248, and I recognize Representative Platt.
Yes, I move to not recommend.
I recognize Representative Thomas.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we not recommend this bill for future legislation. Is there any further comment or discussion?
I would just say, in support of my motion, that there's no way to enforce, first of all, if we were to require replacement power. Second, since they never got a capacity payment, there's no obligation. So those are the two killers right there. And if ISO New England, if it grows enough to be a problem, ISO New England will point it out at some future date. But right now, since they don't count them as capacity as all, they make that up through their capacity market with other resources.
Okay, any further discussion?
Who seconded that? Sorry.
Representative Thomas seconded the motion. Okay, seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the question of not recommend for future legislation on House Bill 1248.
Representative Thomas.
Yes.
Representative Harrington.
Yes.
Representative Nodder.
Yes.
Representative Murner.
Yes.
Representative Platt votes yes. Representative Berejny.
Yes.
Representative Bernardi.
Yes.
Representative Cambrils.
Yes.
Representative Ploje.
Yes.
Representative White, not present. Representative Lewicki.
Yes.
Representative Somsich.
Yes.
Representative Callie Pitts. Yes? Yes. Okay, Representative Mann.
Yes.
Representative Oxenham.
Yes.
Representative Vincent. Absent. Representative McGee.
Yes.
Representative McWilliams.
Yes.
Representative Creechin, not present. Representative Pimentel, not present.
It's right there.
Oh, Pimentel?
Oh, no, no.
Partial.
Sorry.
Representative Partial.
Yes.
I'm glad you're here, Representative Partial.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
The new Pimentel.
Okay. 18 yes, 4 not present. Oh, the chair.
Chair votes yes.
18 yes, 4 not present.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clerk. By a vote of 18 to nothing, the committee adopts the recommendation of not recommend for future legislation. So I'd like to close the
Mr.
executive
Chair,
session.
do we have 22 members?
We
Or
do.
21?
22,
Okay, thank you.
yes. Close the executive session on 1248 and open a work session on HB 1635. This bill was relative to the purchase of the output of limited electrical energy producers and including qualifying storage systems. We sent this bill to interim study, as you'll all recall, because it was superseded by a Senate Bill 321, which passed out of this committee with an amendment, was concurred by the Senate, and was eventually signed by the governor. And Representative McGee, who originally filed this bill, agreed that it was no longer necessary, having been superseded by Senate Bill 321. Is there any further discussion that we need to have on this particular piece of legislation, proposed legislation? Seeing none, I'll close the work session and open a executive session on House Bill 1635. And I recognize Representative Berejny for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that we not recommend 1635 for further legislation.
Chair recognizes Representative Thomas.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we not recommend HB 1635 for future legislation. And I would like to know if there's any further discussion needed. Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the question of not recommended for future legislation on HB 1635.
Representative Thomas.
Yes.
Representative Harrington.
Yes.
Representative Nodder.
Yes.
Representative Murner.
Yes.
Representative Platt votes yes. Representative Berejny.
Yes.
Representative Bernardi.
Yes.
Representative Cambrils.
Yes.
Representative Ploje.
Yes.
Representative White, not present. Representative Lewicki.
Yes.
Representative Somsich.
Yes.
Representative Callie Pitts. Representative Mann. Representative Oxenham.
Yes.
Representative Vincent, not present. Representative McGee.
Yes.
Representative McWilliams.
Yes.
Representative Creechin, not present. Representative Pimentel, not present. Representative Partial.
Yes.
Okay, that would make it 18, the chair,
Yes.
that would make it 18-0 and 4 not present.
Okay. By a vote of 18 to nothing, the committee recommends not recommended for future legislation on HB 1635. I'll close that public hearing. or executive session rather. And the next bill on our list is HB 1644. And because there was a subcommittee on this particular bill, there's no need for a work session. So I'm going to open an executive session on HB 1644 and recognize Representative Thomas.
The motion is for further legislative action, whatever that might be. Let me speak to my motion.
Yes, after we get a second. Representative Plett is recognized.
I'll second.
It's been moved and
To-
seconded.
To recommend. in other words.
Right. It's been moved and seconded that we recommend for future legislation House Bill 1644, and Representative Thomas is recognized to speak to the motion.
Yes, during our work session, it was decided that something addition should be done on this subject matter. And what came to light were perhaps education might be needed for people on the pros and cons of RF radiation. And also what came to light was perhaps a lack of understanding of what local communities can do in terms of tower placements. So because of this additional information that came forward, and really not for anything else, we decided that perhaps there's room for further legislative action that might want to cover those particular subjects. And that was the emphasis and the basis for the recommendation for further legislative action. There was no other reason for that.
Question for you, Representative Thomas. What was the subcommittee vote on that
The
legislation?
subcommittee vote, I believe, was 4-1. Representative White was not present, and so it was 5-1. Excuse me, 5-1, because Representative Bresney was part of our committee, so it was 5-1.
Okay, is there any further discussion on this piece of legislation? Representative Oxenham.
Thank you very much for taking this question. Clarification, you mentioned the lack of understanding of what local communities can do in terms of siting. Could you share with us what your subcommittee may have discovered about this that we did not hear in the original public hearing?
Basically, we learned that in terms of aesthetics or other, or in terms of safety, in terms of if a tower were to fall down and hit a particularly critical item like a school, that the towns would have reason to decide where a tower could be placed along those lines. And there seemed to be a lack of understanding that some towns recognize that fact. And so we felt that additional information and education would be needed in case towns wanted to take those things into consideration. Also, it was brought up by Representative Callie Pitts that there was a lot of education or a lot of misunderstanding that may not be out there to the local public, and perhaps some entity from the state agency, perhaps something like Department of Energy, we don't know, might be able to put out some education for people to better understand what is or isn't safe involving RF radiation. Those things came to light during the work session. And so for those reasons, we felt that some type of legislative action might be warranted in the future. So that's why we voted that way.
Representative Callie Pitts.
I have nothing else to say. I think it's all been covered, but I think that what we are not discussing here, or what we need to stick to, is what we are doing here and not the content and that sort of thing. I think I would ask the chair to review just the caption of what the bill is, because I don't know if this is being filmed or not, because a lot of people don't know what 1644 is. So I would just say that's what it is. But ours is not to go through the details. Ours is to just, do we think we need further legislation or don't we?
Okay, thank you. And I apologize for not reading the title of the bill. The bill is relative to the placement of telecommunication antenna and establishing a registry for residents who are experiencing biological symptoms from wireless radiation exposure. Is there any further discussion from Representative Somsich?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Thomas, I just wanted to ask in regard to the study committee, was there any talk about the impact of these towers on real estate values? I know this is happening in various places in the country where when these towers are very close to residential areas, there is a genuine impact on real estate values. Was there any discussion about that in the study committee?
Not directly, no. The discussion was primarily around safety or fire hazards on towers if they were too close to some particular critical facility. If they were to fall or catch fire, it could present some type of a safety hazard that way, but nothing about property values during that discussion.
Representative Nodder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was the one no vote on this subcommittee because I have no doubt that legislation is going to be filed regardless of the recommendation of the committee. So I didn't feel it was necessary to have it a unanimous vote.
Thank you, Representative Partial.
May I call the vote? May I call the vote?
Well, I wouldn't want to just stifle debate, but if there are no other folks who want to speak, yes, let's call the vote. So I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the recommendation that we recommend this bill for future legislation.
Representative Thomas. Representative Thomas.
Yes.
Representative Harrington.
Yes.
Representative Nodder.
No.
Representative Murner.
Yes.
Representative Platt, I have to explain this. I was asked to second the motion, so I did, but I'm against it. No. I'm voting no. Representative Berejny.
No.
Representative Bernardi.
Yes.
Representative Cambrils.
Yes.
Representative Ploget.
Yes.
Representative White. Not here. Representative Lewicki.
Yes.
Representative Somsich.
Yes.
Representative Kelly Pitts.
Yes.
Representative Mann. Yes. Representative Oxenham. Representative Vincent, not here. Representative McGee.
Yes.
Representative McWilliams.
Yes.
Representative Creechin. Absent. Representative Pimentel, absent. Representative Partial.
Yes.
Okay. The chair.
Yes.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 15 yes. 4 absent, so the difference ought to be 3. And let's see if that's true. 1, 2, 3, yes. So 15 yes, 3 no, and 4 absent.
Okay, by a vote of 15 to 3, the committee passes the recommendation of recommend for future legislation. I'll close the public hearing, the executive session rather, on HB 1644. And we will now move to a work session on Senate Bill 113. Does anyone have any comments to make on Senate Bill 113? It was relative to the alternative compliance payments for renewable energy obligations not met through the purchase of renewable energy credits. It was submitted to the committee by Senator Bradley in the first year of our session, and we put it on, or we judged it to be worthy of interim study. Since that time, Senator Bradley has informed us that he thinks that this bill should not go forward. Does anybody have any further comment on it? Representative Flett.
Though I didn't object to uniformity, I did object to the highest possible level to make it uniform.
Okay, great. Any further comment? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the,
We need a
whoops.
motion.
I'll close the work session rather, and open a executive session on Senate Bill 113, and I'll recognize Representative Cambrils.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to make a motion to not recommend any further legislation on this bill.
Representative Thomas.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we not recommend any future legislation on Senate Bill 113. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the question of not recommend for future legislation on Senate Bill 113.
Representative Thomas,
Yes.
Representative Harrington,
Yes.
Representative Nodder,
Yes.
Representative Murner,
Yes.
Representative Platt, yes, votes yes. Representative Berejny,
Yes.
Representative Bernardi,
Yes.
Representative Cambrils,
Yes.
Representative Ploget,
Yes.
Representative White, not present. Representative Lewicki,
Yes.
Representative Somsich,
Yes.
Representative Callie Pitts,
Yes.
Representative Mann,
Yes.
Representative Oxenham. Yes. Representative Vincent, not present. Representative McGee,
Yes.
Representative McWilliams,
No.
Representative Creature, not present. Representative Pimentel, not present. Representative Paschal. Not present, okay. And yes, and the chair?
Yes.
Well, 17, 1, and 4 absent.
Okay, by a vote of 17 to 1.
5 absent, wait a second. 5 absent, so that's 18, 16 to 1.
16 to 1, okay. By a vote of 16 to 1, the committee judges SB 113 to be suitable for not recommending for future legislation. So I'll close the executive session on Senate Bill 113. The next bill on the list is Senate Bill 259. It did have a subcommittee, so we're going to go directly to executive session on Senate Bill 259. And the chair recognizes Representative Bernardi for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Subcommittee recommendation was to recommend for further.
Okay, the subcommittee recommend for future legislation. Representative Thomas, that's the motion.
Second.
Representative Thomas seconds the motion. So Representative Bernardi, as the subcommittee chair, could you give us a synopsis of what the subcommittee's thinking was, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So there was considerable discussion about what a municipal host meant and the definitions that were to be added by this Senate bill. Key among them were quasi-public entities, public housing authorities or housing authorities, and the Pease Development Authority. So the discussion went broader than that, indicating that there was opportunity here to address some of the issues associated with municipal boundaries and utility boundaries not being coincident, and therefore this bill could correct that potentially, but the bill as written doesn't correct that. So we had a vote of 2 to 1 in favor of continuing on with the legislation, but to be amended to address these issues that are not in the bill. And so I was the one member who said, no, the bill as currently written does not address that, so I voted no.
Thank you. Any future further discussion? Representative Oxenham.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Yes, as one of the people that voted for the recommendation to move forward, that was to bring it to the attention of this body. Understanding, as Representative Callie Pitts has told us repeatedly, that we're not going to change the bill today, but to go onto the record as saying this is a bill where there is a demonstrated need for action, and I strongly encourage someone on the committee, and I think I have a candidate, to file a bill at the next legislative window. But I passed out once again the color picture. This is a problem. The Municipal Association is now involved. They will be lobbying in favor of action to rectify this problem because 90% of the towns in our state cannot use this legislation because their population is too small, their load is too small, and or, as is the case for the town that I principally represent, they have 3 utilities for a town of 3,400 people, and coming up with the load of 1 megawatt is, you're not going to be able to find a cost-efficient way to go forward. So just wanted to put that in the record that, as our chair said in May, this is a problem and it needs to be fixed. And I strongly encourage everyone to support the bill when it comes to you next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on Senate Bill 259? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the recommendation that we recommend for future legislation, Senate Bill 259.
Representative Thomas,
Yes.
Representative Harrington,
No.
Representative Nodder,
No.
Representative Murner,
No.
Representative Platt votes no. Representative Berejny,
No.
Representative Bernardi,
No.
Representative Cambrils,
No.
Representative Ploget,
No.
Representative White, not present. Representative Lewicki,
No.
Representative Somsich,
Yes.
Representative Callie Pitts.
Yes.
Representative Mann,
Yes.
Representative Oxendom. Yes. Representative Vincent, not present. Representative McGee,
Yes.
Representative McWilliams,
Yes.
Representative Creature, absent. Representative Pimentel, absent. And Representative Paschal is absent still? Okay. And the chair?
I vote no.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 through Cambrils. 9, 10, no, and 5 absent. 17,
Okay, by a vote of
7 yes.
7 yes, 10 no, the recommendation of the subcommittee is defeated, and the chair recognizes Representative Bernardi for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I make a motion to not recommend future legislation. This is for future legislation.
And then we just do the-
Representative,
Second.
it's
Not-
been moved and
not
seconded that we judge Senate Bill 259 to be not recommended for future legislation.
Question, Mr. Chair?
Question.
If we voted 7 to 10 and against recommending, do we have to go to not recommend?
Well, that was the motion on the floor.
Why?
Don't we have to pass a motion?
No?
Is defeating one sufficient?
Yeah.
Is that the committee consensus?
Yes.
All right. We will
Withdraw
dispense.
my
from-
motion.
What is what?
These are
All right, we're consulting with an authority on this. So the official, the expert recommendation is we do have to vote on a motion to not recommend.
Okay.
We can't just turn down a motion. We have to vote positively on a motion. So,
It's what we've always done.
we just had an opinion from committee staff. So I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll on the question of not recommended for future legislation.
Motion has to be made.
I thought we already made it.
Because of this controversy.
Oh, you withdrew it. I didn't hear you do that.
I
Okay.
will thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will remake the motion to not recommend for future legislation.
Second.
Representative Thomas seconds the motion. Okay, so now we can go forward. Please call the roll, Mr. Clerk.
Yeah, but that will take me a moment because this is catching me all by surprise.
Okay.
To me, it's a waste of time.
Yeah, I agree, but
Would you like me to call it? Well, even though this is the way it's done, if the motion fails, you make a new motion. Why is that new? That's not new.
I believe Masons would say that if a motion is defeated,
That's
then
it.
you have to make a new motion to state your position. So I think we're doing the right thing here. And as soon as the clerk is ready, we're going to do it.
Yeah, I'm emptying the last vote tally so I can redo it. I'll save it differently, of course. Okay. Okay, I've got SB 259 calling a vote on not recommending. Representative Thomas,
Yes.
Representative Harrington,
Yes.
Representative Nodder,
Yes.
Representative Murner,
Yes.
Representative Platt votes yes, Representative Berejny,
Yes.
Representative Bernardi,
Yes.
Representative Cambrils,
Yes.
Representative Ploget,
Yes.
Representative White not present, Representative Lewicki,
Yes.
Representative Somsich,
No.
Representative Callie Pitts.
No.
Representative Mann,
No.
Representative Oxenham, Representative Vincent not present, Representative McGee,
No.
Representative McWilliams,
No.
Representative Creechin not present, Representative Pimentel not present, and Representative Paschal not present. Is that correct? Okay, so the vote, and the chair?
Chair votes yes.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 through Cambrils. 10, 11. 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5. It's 11, 6, 5. That's correct. The vote is 11 for, 6 opposed, and 5 not present. What,
Okay, by a vote of 11 to 6, the committee adopts the recommendation that we
Save as.
not recommend this bill for future legislation. So I'll close the executive session on Senate Bill 259. Now, we are going to take a break until 11:30. We have 2 bills to finish at 11:30. I suspect that we will be able to finish those by noontime, which would be a welcome finish to our 2-year session. So I will see you all back here at 11:30. And thank you for your hard work so far this morning. We'll get this done, get it completed in just a little while. Bye-bye. Yes.
thank you. Okay.
somebody 10 years out that said no 15.
I'm on the women.
Trying to
You
do
have
all
meeting and meeting and
They haven't done
a lot of talk.
15 years. I won't live to see it.
Sorry, I keep missing you.
Well, you did take that short on a block out, didn't you? So,
You appear last time.
was the waves, was it that, I get seasick, so.
I was fine, but I had no sea legs and I was thrown into a couple of you. What an opportunity. When I looked up and saw that, we
The gigantic.
they're making them 4 times higher. But I asked the question, is the Supreme Court ruling on the nets gonna affect that? Because those all have to be tethered.
I don't know.
Nobody knows.
Please take your seats so that we can resume our work for this morning. Okay, while we're waiting for the stragglers to return to the committee room here, I would like to open a work session on Senate Bill 264, which is a bill relative to certain references to the Department of Energy and transferring authority over the low-income electricity assistance program to the Department of Energy. And I would remind members that when we had the public hearing on this bill, the Department of Energy and the Public Utilities Commission were in disagreement about the authority over the low-income electricity assistance program, and the transfer to the Department of Energy was the Department of Energy withdrew its request for the transfer of that authority. So this bill was sent to interim study because of that. And it would appear that the question is moot at this point. Is there any discussion on this
Mr. Chairman?
Senate Bill 264? Representative Harrington.
Thank you. I might just ask, since we have a representative of the Department of Energy here, would it be appropriate to ask him what their present position is?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, sorry, Griffin, but I guess you're on the hook. So what is the Department of Energy's current position on Senate Bill 264? And we appreciate you being here and being willing to answer a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Griffin Roberge, State Energy Program Manager with the Department of Energy. I believe the department just wanted to confer with the PUC a little bit more on the programmatic structure of this change before moving forward with it. Additionally, there are also some language changes, as I think you might all recall from this, I think you should say on veto day. With House Bill 1223, there was some additional language in there that would restrict the PUC from making any modification to the SBC for the Electric Assistance Program. As you recall, that bill put an additional $7 million into the Electric Assistance Program to shore it up. So I think at this point, the Department of PUC would like further discussion on this bill before moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on Senate Bill, or actually, before we do that, any further questions for Mr. Robarge from the committee? Representative Callie Pitts?
I have a question, a real question. When do you expect that some of this money will start flowing? I'm assuming that, and maybe I shouldn't assume, that rules have to be developed.
Thank you for the question. I guess a question back to you. Are you talking regarding the Electric Assistance Program or all the various programs that were under HB 2023?
Various programs.
Various programs. So the Electric Assistance Program, to the best of my knowledge, is something that's been continually going. Consumers, residents can apply to their community action program and obviously have to meet eligibility standards to access that funding. The additional $7 million into that program is just meant to shore it up because we anticipate increased demand. In terms of the other one-time benefits, the $200 one-time electric benefit and the $450 fuel assistance benefit, I believe, to the best of my knowledge, that those contracts with the CAP agencies were recently approved at Governor and Council. I imagine the program will likely be underway soon. I just would be hesitant to give a specific timeline or anything like that. But I know there is certainly an urgency to get those up and running sooner rather than later.
Follow up?
Will gas be included, natural gas be included in those programs?
I'd have to look back on the bill. I can't give you a definitive answer, but if it's all right with the committee, I can follow up by email if that's all right.
The bill was fuel neutral.
Okay, all right.
Even wood would be covered. Okay, any further questions for Mr. Roberge? Seeing none, I thank you for being available this morning. I guess
Thank you.
it's still morning. And now I would ask the committee if there is any further discussion on this bill. Seeing none, I'm going to close the work session on Senate Bill 264 and open an executive session on Senate Bill 264 and recognize Representative Nodder.
I make a motion that we not recommend further legislation.
Representative Thomas.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we not recommend for future legislation Senate Bill 267. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I would ask the clerk to call the roll on the recommendation that we not recommend for future legislation Senate Bill 264.
Representative Thomas,
Yes.
Representative Arrington,
Yes.
Representative Nodder,
Yes.
Representative Mariner,
Yes.
Representative Platt votes yes, Representative Berejny,
Yes.
Representative Bernardi,
Yes.
Representative Cambrils,
Yes.
Representative Ploje,
Yes.
Representative White, not here. Representative Lewicki,
Yes.
Representative Somsich,
No.
Representative Callie Pitts, Representative Mann,
Not voting. I wasn't here to hear the discussion.
okay. Representative Oxenham. Representative Vincent, not present. Representative McGee, not present, okay? Representative McWilliams,
No.
Representative Creechin, still not present. Representative Pimentel, still not present. Representative Partial,
No.
okay? And the chair.
Yes.
One, two, 6, 7, 8, 13 yes, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4 no. In the absence. 5, 6, 6. I'm off by one somewhere.
Representative McGee is still being, is still being interviewed from the press conference.
Okay, but should I just put her down as not present? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Loge.
He missed the discussion.
12.
He's hearing the question again. He may have to vote.
Who?
So Representative Mann, you were here when the question was put. And even though you did not hear the discussion, there's some question about whether you need to vote on the question. We've asked the clerk. Okay. And we're waiting for an answer. I'll vote no. Okay, Representative Mann votes no.
12 yes, 5 no, and 5 not present.
Okay, by a vote of 12 to 5, the committee adopts the recommendation of not recommended for future legislation on Senate Bill 264. So we'll close the executive session on Senate Bill 264 and go to the final bill of the day. And this bill was referred to a subcommittee, so we do not have to have a work session on it. Now we'll go straight to an executive session on Senate Bill 269, and I'll recognize Representative Murner. I'm sorry, I will read the title of the bill. Senate Bill 269, establishing a commission to study energy-saving weatherization programs. Representative Murner.
Yes, we had a meeting on Tuesday on this, work session on this bill, and it came out 5-1 vote not to recommend for the legislation.
So that is your motion?
And that's my motion, not to recommend.
Representative Thomas.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we judge Senate Bill 269 to be not recommended for future legislation. Is there any discussion? Representative Mann. Please use your microphone.
Thank you. What's my option to, can I discuss anything about the bill or anything about that? What is it?
Yes, you
Yes,
can, you can,
okay,
you can
okay.
discuss, the committee recommendation was 5-1 not to recommend,
Right, but we don't have to follow them.
but we're all going to vote, and we don't have to vote yay on that. We can vote nay if
Thank
we.
you. Okay. Well, my discussion would be, I hope it's more more coherent than Tuesdays. But anyway, the bill has an awful lot of content about energy efficiency. And however, energy efficiency is a wide subject, and it's not well understood. One of the areas that's got the biggest financial impact to the state is energy efficiency of buildings. We call it building energy efficiency. And what happens with that is, it's about where the building is able to resist winter cold and summer heat, essentially without spending excessive energy. So there's a big impact with that. And one of the pieces of that is that buildings are heated, and there's a great deal of fossil energy spent in heating buildings. It's not just electrical energy that we're talking about saving. So if you can reduce the amount of air conditioning or heating a building needs, you're saving both electricity and CO2 generation, but that's a different subject, and the cost for fuel. And there's other various things. First of all, it seems that a long-term energy efficiency program, if we scheduled one to do energy efficiency for buildings, could produce an accelerating return on investment. And the reason for that is that every building that you insulate will stay insulated for the rest of its life until it burns down or something. So those all build up, and if you graph it out, the return on investment goes up with a square function. In other words, it accelerates. So over time, you get to the point where the previously done energy efficiency work saves enough money for the economy to keep spending it on more energy efficiency to finish the job with all the other buildings. So it's a really major subject area. The financing, the benefits, how it has to be done, the quality control, what our focus is and so on, that really needs work. And so I highly recommend that this bill, that we pass this, I recommend this bill for further study, because it is a very important and useful bill. Thank you. Although I would perfectly well admit it's as written, it needs a lot of amendment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion, Representative Callie Pitts.
I voted against this bill coming through, and I would do it again. We've been doing energy efficiency for as long as I can remember. We started out with plastic and tape. We've moved to total insulation. We've done light bulbs. We've been working on this forever. However, my feeling on this bill was we don't need another commission. We've studied it to death. We know what we need to do, and instead of doing this, we need to just do it. And I do believe that there are members of the next legislature who will introduce legislation to do just that. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion, Representative Somcich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I greatly respect my colleague, Representative Mann's comments about energy efficiency. I also agree with Representative Callie Pitts that that a commission like this is totally unnecessary. We already know that weatherization works. We know why it works. Low-income residents have already been receiving weatherization energy efficiency programs. It has been demonstrated to work. So the only way I would ever vote for a commission like this is if itself, through its discussions and hot air, could generate some energy on its own. Otherwise, I think it's a waste of time and money.
Further discussion? Seeing none, Representative Mann, I'll let you have the last word. Well, we do appreciate
We
the
need-
education you've given us about
Yeah.
energy efficiency
I
and
don't
building weatherization. But this is a bill that's mostly about a commission, so keep that in
Right,
mind.
and I think if you notice, is all the stakeholders are involved. The governor, all the utilities. It's just a wide range of people, and they all have different perspectives. The utilities, for example, have been getting decent money to help with energy efficiency by buying new refrigerators for, low-income customers. Now, that saves a little electricity, but it's insignificant, and that money might better be spent weatherizing 3 or 4 little houses. So there's a lot to do in that commission. This is a major, major subject area, very poorly understood. It's almost laughable. We talk about energy efficiency as if we all knew all about it. We don't. I'm the only person in this committee that has done any analysis, mathematical analysis of how the thing goes, how it's done. I've been involved in several energy efficiency projects. My house cannot be made more energy efficiency. It was designed by people in our neighborhood. I even have a cold roof separating it from the real roof, because if we had our shingles on an insulated roof that we have, the sun would curl them up and they'd rot away from the heat. So there's a lot to know about this, and I tried to make that clear yesterday, but I certainly am sounding more like an old man. But so I really think a commission that is a serious commission could really dig into this. And hopefully you'd have members on it that had a very strong point of view, so we could have some really solid discussions. Thank you. I'll end it there. I won't say another word.
Okay, thank you. I'd also remind the committee members that the energy efficiency landscape is going to change fairly significantly going forward, because the so-called Inflation Reduction Act sends a lot of money to the states to do energy efficiency. And New Hampshire is in line to get tens of millions of new dollars for energy efficiency. So the distribution and expenditure of that money is going to be of significant discussion and concern over the next several years. Seeing no further discussion on the question, I would like to ask the clerk to call the roll on the question of not recommended for future legislation on Senate Bill 269.
Representative Thomas,
Yes.
Representative Harrington,
Yes.
Representative Notter,
Yes.
Representative Murner,
Yes.
Representative Plett votes yes. Representative Berejny,
Yes.
Representative Bernardi,
Yes.
Representative Cambrils,
Yes.
Representative Ploget,
Yes.
Representative White still not present, Representative Lewicki,
Yes.
Representative Somsich,
Yes.
Representative Kelly Pitts,
Yes.
Representative Mann,
No.
Representative Oxenham, Representative Vince is not present, Representative McGee,
No.
Representative McWilliams,
No.
Representative Creechin not present, Representative Pimentel not present, Representative Paschal,
Taking luxury. No.
okay, and the chair.
Yes.
Looks like 14. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. 18, Yeah. 14 for not recommending, 4 against, and 4 not present.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clerk. So by a vote of 14-4, the committee votes to not recommend for future legislation Senate Bill 269. And please, unless you've been granted the floor, let's keep the chatter down. So that concludes our work for the 2021-2022 legislative session. And I'd like to congratulate everybody on this committee for your diligence in studying the bills that have been presented to us, trying to understand them, and bringing your best judgment to bear on the fate of those bills. I know you've all worked hard. You've all done your best to represent what you believe to be the beliefs of your constituents. And I'm very grateful that we've had a committee that operated smoothly, that while we've had disagreements, there have been no fights, no ugliness. We've all treated each other with the respect that we all deserve, and I'm grateful for that. And I commend you all for conducting yourselves in a professional manner. Representative Harrington?
Yeah, just for a moment of personal privilege, I just wanted to mention this committee, whoever comes back on it, is never going to be the same as far as I'm concerned. I was first served here in 2002, and Jackie was on there at that time, and I just can't envision the committee without her. She lost in a primary. I know the committee and the House of New Hampshire House of Representatives is a better place with her in it, and we'll miss you a lot, Jackie. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Harrington. And I'll echo those comments by saying that we will miss you, Representative Callie Pitts. So without further ado, we actually completed, Representative Oxenham has a comment.
I'd just like to express the appreciation of the members of the committee for the work of the chair, the vice chair, and particularly the clerk, who came back from a serious illness to supply very needed services for this committee. But again, the fact that the fights never degenerated into fistfights, the fact that there was no name calling and we could, go out and have a meal together at the end, all testified to your ability to bridge differences. And I'd just like to express appreciation for your role here.
Well, thank you. You're very kind and generous to say that, and I appreciate it very much. Representative Callie Pitts would like to make a comment.
Like short and sweet, the Reader's Digest version. I want to thank you all for tolerating me for 26 years. You have gotten a reprieve. Thank you.
Representative Thomas.
Yes, thank you. I just want to add for the record, what we've gone through in these last 2 years here is nothing short of historic. And 2 years in so many ways could feel like 10 years because of where we were 2 years ago to where we are now is like night and day. And if you can think back of what we went through starting 2 years ago, so many things happened, so many things changed, so many historic events happened. And I think anyone that was here present who is not coming back and those that are coming back need to understand this was truly a historic period in time for being a legislator in the state of New Hampshire. And I extend my thanks to everybody who cooperated, leadership, minority, party, the whole 9 yards. This has truly been a whirlwind of just a mixed bag of a lot of things that we had to do to get the job done. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have a closing comment? Seeing none, this committee is adjourned for the 2021-2022 session.